What's the state of cyberbullying in our schools? What are the silent impacts on our children, and what can we do to protect them? When used effectively, can devices actually increase collaboration and communication in the classroom? Welcome back to another episode of the Teachers on Fire podcast, airing live on YouTube every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. My name is Tim Cavey, and my mission here is to warm your heart, spark your thinking, and ignite your professional practice. Today's Teacher on Fire is EVA HARVELL. EVA serves as the Director of Technology for the Pascagoula-Gautier School District and was recognized as the 2021 Mississippi Educational Computing Association's Administrator of the Year. As a national speaker, published author, doctoral candidate, and an education and research partner for the Mississippi AI Collaborative, she drives innovation in K-12 educational technology. You can connect with Eva on LinkedIn and on X at techie_teach. This episode is sponsored by linewise.com. Linewise helps schools, districts, and the communities they serve to keep children safe and thriving in their digital lives, in school, at home, and everywhere in between. Visit linewise.com to learn more about their best-in-class filtering, threat detection, and student empowerment solutions. Eva, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Are you, my friend, ready to light it up?
I'm so ready. Let's get started.
All right. Well, I'm excited to have you here, a director of technology. I have so many questions, and I'm excited to get into it. Before we jump into your work and mission and hear more about these important topics that I mentioned, I'd like to get into your story. Would you share with us about an experience of adversity, some kind of a challenge that you faced along your personal or professional journey, and describe how you overcame it?
So my adversity actually ended up becoming my strength. I was in the classroom starting in 2002, just me and my second graders moving and grooving right along. In 2009, I was moved out of the classroom and became our district's first technology integration specialist, which is really fancy for technology trainer. And so I was still helping teachers, helping students integrate technology in the classroom, which was my passion, which was my focus. It was my expertise. And then in 2015, my mentor, my boss, who was the director of technology at the time, retired. And I took the leap and applied for the position, and I was hired. And then I was given these obstacles. What is a server? What is a wireless access point? What is bandwidth? What is, all the techie things that I knew were there because I saw them, but I wasn't directly affected by them. And so I had to learn them very quickly. I had a strong team, my support team, my network admins, my technicians, my trainers, my office staff. We really come together, and they've taught me a lot. I have a strong team of technology directors within the state of Mississippi that I can bounce ideas off of. And so I learned that technical side, but my original strength has really helped me. So when we're looking at technology, when we're looking at things, I have that education lens, that classroom teacher lens, even though it's been a minute since I've been in the classroom. And I use that to the advantage of say, yes, I think we need this program, but is it going to be teacher friendly? Is it going to be something that's going to be a benefit of the teacher? And really look at it that way. So was a little bit scary at first, but it's really, I've learned a lot. Now I know just enough to be dangerous. I do depend on my network guys, but really focus on the education side and my experience to make sure we're doing best for kids and students.
Well, I love that you bring that teacher perspective. I think that's so important because sometimes you're right. Sometimes in our schools and districts, we have a technology department or an IT department, and that's got to be aligned. That's got to be thinking along the lines of our learning objectives for the school and district. You can't really separate those completely. And my hat goes off to you, Eva, because I'm quite aware that, for many teachers, we think of ourselves as technology experts when in fact, what we're talking about is we know our way around some apps, but we don't really know the infrastructure and the technology behind that and what makes everything tick in our buildings. So good for you to just jump in with 2 feet. That's a big deal. I want to talk today, Eva, as one of our primary topics here about this phenomenon of cyberbullying in our schools. It's a big deal. I
It
was
is.
teaching some fifth grade students about cyberbullying this week and trying to help them understand the difference between joking and being mean and then cyberbullying and what that entails. So let's talk big picture for a moment. Would you say cyberbullying is on the rise today? Where would you say it is in terms of trends, and what do you see as some of the biggest impacts on students?
It's definitely on the rise. It is definitely prevalent, and it's something that I really think we need to make sure that we're addressing not only in the classroom but at home as well. I am a huge fan of the Pew Center research. Love the data they have there, and they recently did a survey in 2022 of students, and nearly half of the teenagers that they surveyed said that they reported they've had experienced at least one of the 6 cyberbullying behaviors that were listed on the survey.
Hmm.
I mean, that's half the kids that they
Yeah.
surveyed. That's pretty serious. I know in 2020, a few years back, we know what was happening in 2020. There was another survey done by another group, and 1 in 5 tweens. Now, I'm the mother of a tween. I have a 7th grader. 1 in 5 tweens that were surveyed said they were exposed to some type of cyberbullying, whether they were the one being bullied, they were the one doing the bullying, or they just witnessed it. So it is definitely something that is increasing. We have in our school district, we have what's called a student advisory. So it's a group of students that are selected from grades, the academy level all the way to the high school level, and they help us work on a variety of topics. And we most recently talked about one which is prevalent. It kind of goes along with the cyberbullying, which is chronic absenteeism. And we asked them why do you think students are absent in the classroom? And a lot of them said bullying or cyberbullying or not feeling safe in the classroom. So cyberbullying is there, and it's happening not only in the schools, but it's happening out there when they're at home, which I know we'll talk a little bit more about, devices and my thoughts on devices.
Yeah.
But, when we look at chronic absenteeism, for the state of Mississippi in 23-24, our chronic absenteeism rate was 24.4%.
Wow.
They don't really talk about the reasonings why. I would love to do the research again on that and see the reasonings why 24% of our students in the state of Mississippi were absent. I can almost guarantee you, cyberbullying is going to be up there with it. And then when you're looking at cyberbullying, AI, you got to talk about AI too when it comes into play here. It's one thing for the students to, they start with picking with each other, and it just becomes a constant, it goes a little too far, and it becomes that cyberbullying where a group of them are constantly picking on a student, whether it's through email or it's through social media, or it's through text messaging, things like that. But then you throw AI in the mix, and it's, we're going to talk about this student. Now let's go to an AI platform and make an inappropriate picture of them and share it out with everybody. So it's definitely on the rise. I think we're seeing the absenteeisms kind of related to it as well. And we've got to educate. That's that educator side of me. We really have got to kind of understand why the students are absent, what's happening with the cyberbullying, and kind of head it off before it really starts. And we have thankfully been able to do that with some of the resources that we use in the classroom and in the school. LineWise has been a great help with that.
Well, it's such an important topic, and I have so many of my own thoughts and beliefs, so try not to do too much of my own talking in this conversation. But wow, 24%, Eva, is really saddening. I mean, that should really be getting the attention of district leaders and even lawmakers. When you look at that number, that is shocking. It's really, really alarming. So, yeah, did you want to add to that?
Well, if they're not in the classroom, then they're getting learning loss. And then if there's a snowball effect to it. So if we can help resolve some of the reasons why they're being absent. Is there a transportation issue? Is it or it's medical? Is it is it a high school student who is having to work because they're having to support their family? Is it because they don't feel safe at school? They are being bullied. If we can kind of figure out what those issues are and work to resolve those issues, I think the chronic absenteeism is going to alleviate itself. And again, I think that, that cyberbullying piece, as long as we work on ways to educate not only our students, but I think our parents too. Like I said, I'm the mother of a seventh grader, and he is constantly playing his video games. He loves their Fortnite and all those things. And I'm in the room with him so that I can hear the conversations, so that if they start to get frustrated with each other, that we can hold up, let's calm down for a minute, and teach him as we go. And, if there's not parents that are able to do that or know how to kind of handle that, it can kind of escalate. So I really think an education piece has got to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to continue along. Again, thinking about anxiety, I was explaining to these fifth graders that I mentioned that in this case study we were looking at, we had a student who was in the scenario being cyberbullied, and she was being cyberbullied by people who were anonymous. And that makes me think of Discord. I've had, in my role as part-time vice principal, I've had a few interactions with Discord over the last 5 years, meaning that problems that originated on Discord at home in personal spaces on personal devices end up spilling their way into the school. So then it becomes our problem in the school. And so I'm not a huge fan of Discord for that reason, but we talked about, with these little 10-year-olds about this idea of, can anxiety really make you sick? And yes, it can, or it can give you the feeling of being sick, certainly. And in this case study, the little student didn't want to come to school. And so I saw a lot of heads nodding around those classrooms, like a lot of students can relate with that feeling. And of course, we think about the anxious generation and the work by Jonathan Haidt and all of the material and the studies that are coming out to reinforce these ideas. Well, in this area, Eva, when it comes to protecting our children, one option that you've had success with is called LineWise. Yes. What kinds of solutions can educators, principals, and district leaders expect to find at LineWise? And as you do some talking, I'm going to open up their website and sort of poke my way around as you tell us what kinds of solutions are offered there.
Yes. Yeah. So we have been a LineWise district for many years. We started off with their school manager piece, which is their content filter. Every school district, K-12, has to have a content filter, and there's several to choose from. But one of the things that we liked about LineWise, and specifically their content filter, their school manager piece, is it looks at the whole child, which is one thing that we have a very big emphasis on in the Pascagoula-Gautier School District, is the whole child. So within the content filter, it's going to allow us to keep our students safe and secure, keep that environment when they're on a device at school safe and secure. So we have the resources that need to be blocked, the resources that need to have access to, and we're able to kind of modify that very quickly and easily. If, for example, so we allow YouTube in our school district, but if we needed to block YouTube for, say, K-5, we can do that very quickly and very easily within the content filter piece, the class school manager piece. It's very user friendly, so if I can manipulate it, it's a good thing. It's not high techy, so that's another really good thing about their school manager, their piece. The second part that we added was ClassWise, and I will be very honest. I was not a fan, not of ClassWise, but I was not a fan of teachers being able to monitor student devices from their computer. Because when I think of that, I think of a teacher behind the desk, monitoring what their kids are doing and not moving around and getting up. But that is completely not the case with ClassWise. So with ClassWise, the teachers are able to manage what the students are doing. They can see the tabs that are open, But let's say that we're in a history class and we want all of the kids to go to CNN 10. I can push that out to all of them, and that's all that they can see. So I can kind of keep them very tab focused. If there is something that I want to block for the day, so again, I'll use the YouTube example. We have YouTube open for our district, but let's say that I'm in a science class and I'm getting ready for a test, and I kind of want to make sure to keep the distractions at bay. I, as the teacher, can block YouTube for that class period so the students can focus on other things and not be distracted to want to go to YouTube. Now, they can't unblock something that us as a district has blocked, but they can go kind of above and beyond something that we have blocked. But it also allows the teachers to kind of see who's off task. If they need to make that adjustment, they can do that. The third piece, which I have been a huge fan of, and it really, really is helping with that cyberbullying piece that we talked about a moment ago, and it's really helping with that whole child focus, and that is Monitor. So Monitor is a 24/7 real-time alert that will monitor the students. And whenever there is something that is typed in, so it is a keystroke entry monitoring. And if they do a search or they type something in that triggers self-harm, depression, bullying, violence, grooming, any of those, we will get a real-time alert. The alerts are sent to the administrators. So if I go to ABC School and I type in something regarding depression, there will be an alert that will go to the principals of that school. If there's a screenshot available, it will show the screenshot, and that will allow the principals to pull that student, have a conversation, have the counselors pull those students and have a conversation. If need be, call mom. And say, hey, we're witnessing these things. It really has allowed us to help those students who need help and they don't know where to go. I have personally seen, because I get every one of the alerts, and I will tell you, some of them are false positives. So our biology classes do sexual and asexual reproduction. Right. They will email me. We've used this enough. They'll email me, Eva, we're on that topic. Okay, got it. I'll ignore those. But we have had students who have been very nervous about, there's a rumor of a gun going around campus. And so you can see a lot of emails to mamas. I'm freaking out. I'm really nervous. There's a rumor there's a gun on campus. And so the principals are able to kind of stop that. We've had several instances where we've had students who are, like you said, conversations that have happened at home or, after hours have bled into school, and the arguments are still going on. We've been able to see that there are situations either through email or through maybe a shared document, and our counselors are able to pull those students and have those conversations and help them, resolve those issues. And I will tell you, this is not a hidden program. We send a letter home to parents every school year to tell them, we have this piece. This is what the piece does. This is what's going to happen. So the parents know it's not a hidden, it's not a gotcha. And I have yet to have a parent call me to say, I don't want my child monitored. They appreciate the fact that we are watching out for the child, watching out for their well-being, watching their digital safety, and keeping them safe and secure in the schools. And like I said, we're really focused on that whole child, which is a huge emphasis in our school district. They have other pieces as well that we've not dove into just quite yet, but they have a really great piece for educating the parents. They also have some resources out there that you can utilize so that, I see the alerts of what the children are doing. We can set that up so the parents can see it too. So the parents can see what the kids are doing throughout the day and what they're researching and doing and those types of things. So it's been a huge help. We have been able to really help the children when there's been issues at bay, and to kind of help stop some of those concerns. And I'm very appreciative of it. Very appreciative of it.
Thank you so much, Eva, for such a thorough survey. And I have a few questions. I've got one here from Brian, who's joining us on YouTube. Good morning to you, Brian. Thank you for tuning in this morning. He says, good morning. We have students creating private VPNs to get around the blocking software. And I'm curious, Eva, what's your response to that?
So we can, within the content filter, we can create rules to block VPNs. It's almost like those games. It's playing whack-a-mole. So we use our content filter, but we also use our firewall as well to help block those. But yeah, it is a never-ending whack-a-mole game of whack-a-mole, Brian. So I'm right there with you.
He also adds our district has software that sends the parents a report automatically on what sites they are on. Is that something that LineWise offers, or is that something that you even want? Yeah.
Oh, no. So it is a piece that LineWise does offer. It's one that I have not started just quite yet. We're going to explore it. So several of my employees in my department have students within the district. So we're going to test it with our students. But it is one that I want them to kind of see, because I'm not hiding it. I don't want to hide it. I want them to see what their students are doing in the classroom so that they can have those conversations. And I think it'll go along great with the education piece and educating the parents on, what is digital safety? What is, what are they doing in the classroom? What are we teaching them? And to kind of help them so that when they walk across the field, for us, they walk across a high school football field when they graduate. When they walk across that field and go off into college or the military or into the workforce, they're as best prepared as possible to just kind of become an adult.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's always the goal. I like to remind parents, our goal is the day after they graduate. Are they prepared to engage with these devices and applications, right? So it's got to be a scaffolded, it's got to be a step-by-step process, a journey with them. Brian says, agreed, whack-a-mole. So I have a couple of questions for you as well, Eva, in terms of, so the devices that LineWise is operating on, the devices all have to be district devices, right, that the students are using? We can't have any BYOD stuff going on?
So we use our district devices. We're one-to-one Chromebooks, and then we also have in our we have a variety of Windows devices that it can be controlled onto. They do have a piece where, and this is the one piece that we have not dove into just quite yet, where the parents can add some of that onto personal devices as well.
Okay, interesting. Yes, because that's part of the conversation, right? If you have BYOD and you've got all kinds of devices, then it becomes really difficult for an IT department to try to navigate that and have control in terms of what is on what devices. So, okay, so wow, that gives me a lot to think about. It sounds like it's pretty comprehensive, as they say on the website.
It is.
There's not much it doesn't do.
It is very comprehensive, and they are continually growing. That is one thing that I do like about them is they kind of have their finger on the pulse, and when they see if there's an issue or there's a hot button topic within K-12, they will adjust their products to meet that need, and that has really been beneficial to us.
Well, and that's so important when you talk about contracting with ed tech companies as a school or district. You want to know that they are responsive and listening.
Yes.
That's such an important feature that we all need. I want to go into some related topics, Eva, and I know as I keep saying, there's so much to talk about here, but first of all, I have to ask you about phone bans, because when I think about cyberbullying, Eva, I think of a lot of activities that go on right in schools and right in classrooms. I'm thinking of photos and videos taken of classmates or teachers. Let's stick with students for now. Teachers is another topic. A lot of stuff that goes on right in the school. And so what is your take when it comes to this hot button issue of phone bans? Is this something that you have attempted, that you are looking at, or have you dismissed it for the time being?
So again, I'm a mom of a middle schooler, but I'm also a tech director. And I have to, right now, I agree with the phone ban. Now, I'm going to be very honest. If you were to Google it, our school district does allow phones in our district. We, for several years, had a policy that the phones could be on your person but not used. We have relaxed that a little bit right now. So our district is kind of going against what the majority of the U.S. is doing. But as I kind of agree with the ban at the moment right now.
Sure.
And so, but my district has decided to allow phones for the moment. So we're doing what we can and making it work. We don't have to use them. They're not pulling them out in the classroom to use them, because they don't have a device. We are a one-to-one device. But my son goes to a different school district because of where we live, and they did the complete opposite. They allowed phones for several years, and this year they put a ban. Now they can take the phone. My son walks through the building, has his phone in his hand, but when he gets into the classroom, he puts it in a lockbox, and he doesn't get it back until the end of the day. And so why do I think the ban right now? There's a bigger picture there. And the bigger picture is addiction. The bigger picture is we're not using them appropriately, and we're ending up with some of that bullying. They have become a huge distraction. Again, love my Pew Research Center. They interviewed, surveyed teachers about what, being a teacher in America today, and 72% of those high school teachers said cell phones are a distraction. Common Sense Media, I'm sure this is higher, in 2019, said of the student survey, 29% of teenagers had 8 or more hours of screen time. So to me, that's the bigger picture. Can cell phones be of benefit? Of course. I think any technology can be of benefit if it's used the right way. But I think that's part of that bigger picture is we need to educate, we need to understand, and we need to use it in modification. And I think right now we're just not doing that thanks to COVID, because we went home and we had to have those devices in hand. I think we've kind of gone overboard. And as a tech director, I'm saying we need to pull some of that technology back. I think the bans could be taken away at some point, but right now I think we need to kind of get back to the benefits of them.
Well, I'm going to resist doing a deep dive on phone bans, much as I would love to. I've devoted whole episodes in the past to this conversation, but I will say, if anyone needs proof, I mean, I am in an elementary school, an independent school, mind you, but in an elementary school that has a complete phone ban, and we've got access to Chromebooks, iPads, and so forth. We don't need phones, and I can tell you, our teachers don't miss fighting with students about phones. I'll just leave that out there. So my brand here is Teachers on Fire, keeping teachers on fire instead of burning out. And I think that's such an important piece here. Can we take away this place of resistance and friction between teachers and students and just not have the phones present whatsoever? And that seems to work really well in my context. So I know that's just one perspective, but it is an important piece in this conversation. On that topic, we've got a few comments, and I want to say good morning to our friend Josh Tovar. Buenos dias, hermano, coming in from Garland ISD in Texas. Always good to see you, my friend. Brian says, in our middle school, we allow them only during the second half of lunchtime. The rest of the day, they are supposed to be out of sight. Most students are complying. And Josh, again on YouTube, thank you for joining us this morning. Josh says, from your guest weeks ago, that's why cell phones, no bueno in school. I think I've got Josh on my side on this conversation. So thank you, Josh. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation, Teachers on Fire. If you're getting value from this conversation with Eva Harvell, give this video a like on whatever platform you are joining us on. Eva, on a related note, I couldn't help but add this question as well, because I saw some really interesting news. And this comes from Australia, who in the last week apparently has passed legislation banning social media for children under the age of 16, if you can believe it. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you what you make of this move. But I think when we look at banning social media for children. A related topic, and this is close to the heart of many Americans, is freedom and independence from government scrutiny. So you can't really enforce age limits on social media unless you introduce some kind of a digital ID system or verification system. And then we start to have problems or complaints in terms of privacy violations. So it's such a tricky area. What are your initial thoughts? I'm not expecting you to know all about the legislation, but what are your initial thoughts?
I would love to see the logistics on this one.
Yeah.
Again, I think we need to go back to the bigger picture here, and education needs to be key. You know, there's a comment that our leadership team says all the time that, you know, when we kind of go down a rabbit hole, we're making a decision based on the 10% and that are doing the wrong thing, and not the 90% that are doing things right. And we have, you know, I think we have to remember that sometimes, you know, that the vast majority of people our students are doing the right thing. It's just those 10% that are in the office all the time, who are in the news because they're doing the wrong things. And I think social media is the same way. I think it's a bigger picture. We need to have, you know, we need to provide education. And I hate to say put it on the plate of teachers because their plate is so full. But when you're talking about digital citizenship and digital literacy, it fits right into it. So I don't know if it's going to work in Australia, but I think they're missing the bigger picture there.
I think I'm leaning your way on that one too, Eva, that there can be a focus on the branches of the tree rather than the roots. And will it even be effective? I'm skeptical, as I hear you are as well. Well, Eva, let's turn this conversation in a positive direction. And I know that's a big part of what you're all about. You're not a police officer. You're all about learning. You're all about learning in your district. So let's talk about this workshop that you've led titled Get Students Talking with Digital Tools. So used effectively, can devices actually increase collaboration and communication in the classroom?
Yes, 100%. As long as you have a purpose for them and you're not just throwing the technology out there just because you want to use the technology, you know, they can provide they're such a great tool, but they have to be purposeful in what it is that they're doing. And we've seen some really great things with very simple pieces of technology. The digital tool, you know, getting the kids talking with digital tools, some things that I've seen on the high school level. Years and years and years ago, we had a broadcast journalism class. They had, you know, all this great equipment. The teacher since left, the equipment became old and ancient, and they never replaced it. But here recently, one of our teachers said, "Hey, I want to bring back broadcast journalism." All she had was an iPad. And it took the students using that iPad, and they have become a highly recognized broadcast journalism class with their news. And it was just by having a very intentional and purposeful reason for using the technology. I've seen it in elementary classrooms too, when the teachers give, and you know, this is why we're using it. It can just do so many great things.
Well, I love that message, Eva, because so many times I hear the implication that screens equals bad. You know, our students are in front of screens. That's bad. Let's reduce. There's a pressure or almost a guilt about using digital tools. I know not from the technophile teachers in your buildings, but from some others, and maybe from some of your parents. There's that fear there. And I like to remind parents or some of these concerned individuals that, hey, it's really about the activity. It's not about hurting children just because they are looking at a screen, although maybe we can talk about eye strain or things like that. But generally speaking, if they're engaging with the 4 C's, as you just articulated, that's a win. That's a win. And learning is happening. Relationships are growing. And so let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, and focus on tools that are actually doing it right. Well, I want to also ask you about AI. I'm just hammering you here, Eva, with these big questions. So thank you so much. I can't have a district director of technology on the program without asking you about your thoughts. So I'm not going to set this up either way or ask you to cast any judgment. I'm just curious, what's at top of mind right now for either teachers or students? Either way you think about AI tools right now, what's at top of mind for you?
So we utilize AI in our school district. We have it opened for teachers to use, and we have been going full force with training our teachers on how to utilize it as a productivity tool for them, for our principals, how to kind of make life a little bit easier for them. And then we're also using it for our students to kind of show them, yeah, it's really easy to go to Claude AI or to Chat GPT and say, hey, write this essay for me. But you're not going to learn anything from that. Instead, if you're stuck on a topic, I'm working on I'm in my biology class and we're discussing the life cycle of a frog, and I need some topic ideas for a presentation. That's the better way to utilize it. And so that's kind of the stance that we're going with AI. I personally use it just about every day in my personal and work. When I'm at work, I know my technology trainers do as well. So we've kind of are embracing it with open arms. We know there are going to be some negatives with it, but again, we're trying to go at it ahead of the education piece. Do we have some teachers? Oh, heck yeah! I've got some English teachers that are livid. The kids are going to write their essays with it. You're going to know. If you know your kids and you have read their writing that they've done paper pencil, when they turn in that final piece that doesn't sound like, you're going to know your kids. And so that's kind of the way we're going with some of that. But we have an AI policy that we brought, had board approved in June before we started school in July. And so we're going full force with it.
So good. Yeah. When I think about those English teachers, I try to encourage the prompts to include personalization, localization, and vocalization. If you can do those three things, personalize, localize, and vocalize those writing prompts for students, it makes it a little bit harder for AI tools to sort of artificially generate the entire thing. And the other thing I want to say too is that I've been starting to play around with some tools like Brisk Teaching, which is a Chrome extension and integrates right into Google Docs. And I'm interested in what these tools can offer in terms of feedback on writing and a host of other things for teachers. Now that ignited a fierce debate, or not a fierce debate. That ignited some debate on LinkedIn when I shared about it recently, because teachers have concerns about, well, now we have AI tools offering feedback on writing and so forth. But I really think in an age of teacher burnout, there's some hope there, Eva, in terms of saving teachers time and energy. And I think you mentioned that as well.
And to your point on that, I mean, we're not saying that the AI or whatever the tool is going to replace you as the teacher. You're using it as a tool in your toolbox. Yes, you're going to have the writing piece evaluated and by the AI, but that doesn't mean that's what you're going to say as the feedback and move on. You need to read it. You need to. So it's a tool. It's not replacing you. It is a tool. And I think if they look at it that way, they're better for it.
Yeah. Well said. One more thing I want to ask a director of technology, Eva, is Google for Education. And now I have to say, I have loved this. How can we describe it? It's a suite. It's the Google Workspace for our schools, and it's so powerful. It's been so wonderful for so many years. We're talking about, of course, Gmail, Docs, Slides, Classroom, and we had, not Jigsaw, we had, it's escaping me right now. It's Jamboard, thank you.
Yep.
Which I was a fan of, and I'm sad to see go. Anyway, Google for Education has served our schools so well for so many years, but in the last year or two in particular, I've started to notice Google piling up new features in the higher paid tiers. So they are squeezing schools and districts out of the free tier and out of the bottom tiers up toward the higher paid levels, which of course hurts for money-strapped schools and districts. So what are your thoughts? What have you observed? And where are you with Google for Education right now?
So we are a Google district. We've been utilizing Google for Education for several years. I am also responsible for my district's budget for technology, and I pay that bill.
Oh boy.
And that's not a fun bill to pay.
Right.
It. I think they have to remember, yes, the resources they provide are great, but like you said, those districts that are very strapped, we have to. When I have my budget is not an endless amount of money by any means. It would be
Right.
great if it was, but it's not. But I not only have to make sure that I'm purchasing resources for the district, for the instructional side, but I'm also paying for my firewall, my content filter,
Mhm.
cybersecurity, things like that. So it really, really adds up. So when an instructional piece decides to start increasing their cost, it hurts a little.
Mhm.
It really does. Now, are the tools great? The tools are great. Don't get me wrong on that. But it kind of hurts the budget a little bit.
It does. It does.
Yes.
Well, we love you, Google, but slow it down with these
Yes.
squeezing with these premium features. Try to let the schools. My school is on the free tier, Eva. So let us have some of the good stuff too. Is I guess
There
what
you
I'm
go.
asking from Google. If you're enjoying this conversation, consider adding the Teachers on Fire YouTube channel to your morning commute. Start your day and week on fire. Eva, you've been wonderful, and I've really enjoyed your energy in this conversation. As we
Thank
wind
you.
down here, I'm going to put some rapid fire questions to
Yes.
you. Are you ready for those?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Share about one personal habit or productivity hack that contributes to your success and keeps your fire burning on the daily.
For me, lists. If I don't write it down and put it in a list, I will forget it. So 100%, I have to have a list of things because there's so many different things going on. So that is huge for me.
And is that on an app or a paper?
So it depends. I have paper. I will use Google Tasks. I will use my Google Calendar as well. But I've got to have it somewhere in my face so that I don't forget about it.
Yeah. Point us to an ed tech tool or app that you currently love using somewhere in your professional work.
So Claude AI for sure is
Okay.
one. I like it better than Chat GPT. That's just me. I like the Claude. I love, and we've talked about Google, but I love my Google Calendar.
Yes.
That really has been, that kind of helps me out a whole lot too. So.
Recommend one book, one that you've been reading lately, or
Ooh.
perhaps one of your all-time faves that's been deeply influential in your thinking.
So recently I've been diving into the APA manual.
Okay.
Working on my doctorate. I don't think people want to dive into that one, but Atomic Habits by
Yes.
James Clear has been a really, really good one. And Essentialism by Greg McGowan. Those I always go back to those. Those are really, really two good books. They're not educational based, but they're definitely can help an educator.
Yeah. And tell us about someone that we need to follow on Education X, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and share why they've been inspiring you lately.
So I'm really big in LinkedIn right now. I think there's a really great community out there. I'm learning a lot of stuff. Amanda Bickerstaff, who's with AI for Education, she's a really good one to follow. She provides a lot of great resources that I've been pulling from. Another one, if it weren't for X, I wouldn't be where I am right now. There's a lot of great Susan Bearden, Thomas Murray, Alex P, because I always say his last name wrong. Some really great ones that are out there, but LinkedIn, definitely if you're on LinkedIn, check out Amanda Bickerstaff.
All right. And some great picks there. And as we wrap up, Eva, what are the best ways for the Teachers on Fire listening to follow you?
The best way right now is on LinkedIn. Just do a search for my name. I'm also on X. I'm on there from time to time, but LinkedIn is going to be your best place right now.
Sounds good. Eva, thank you so much for sharing your insights and perspectives. I really pushed you, and I know it's not easy to be candid, or perhaps as candid as you would like in your position. So thank you so much for sharing your time and insights with the podcast today. This has been inspiring, and you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you as well for introducing us to linewise.com. That looks like a fantastic solution for schools and districts looking to bolster their security and support support of students in a rather perilous time. Teachers on Fire, I'm your host, Tim Cavey, and I'm so grateful that you too decided to spend some of your day listening to this podcast. I hope that in some way the content you heard today from EVA HARVELL sparked your thinking and ignited your practice. And I'll meet you next week right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.